When you think of anime and manga, the likelihood is that the first thing that will come to your head will be a shonen series, or a moment or a character from a shonen series. Because yeah, there are different manga made for specific demographics, but shonen is far above the rest when it comes to recognition amongst fans. The likes of Dragon Ball or the big three, One Piece, Naruto and Bleach, are some of the most recognizable names in the industry. But all of this isn't to say that there aren't other big series from other manga demographics, and that's where the seinen genre comes in, which kind of has its own big three bestowed upon it by the fans, which is made up of three of the best manga ever written, being Berserk, Vagabond and Vinland Saga, but none of those three are the manga I want to talk about in the video. This specific story to me seems to be both well respected, as seen with the recent annual sales, but also underappreciated at the exact same time, and the name of that manga is Kingdom. So it's based off of the real life historical events that led up to the first unification of China under the first emperor of China, and we follow Shin as he makes his way through to becoming a great general under the heavens. Firstly, I want to say that I don't really know exactly how accurate this is to real world events, even though I know bits of information here and there about those events, but the manga very often references records of that era. But also you can see where the mangaka has taken a few liberties in terms of storytelling or filling in some gaps. And secondly, depending on the translation that you read of the story, the characters and locations names will either be translated in their original Chinese names or their Japanese equivalents. The translation that I read had the Japanese equivalents, so that's just a heads up. I'll try to avoid confusion with that the best I can. And so from there, the way I became aware of Kingdom was in 2020 when the yearly manga sales figures were released. This was the year where Demon Slayer went absolutely wild and sold 82 million copies, completely destroying the competition. And it's the ranking of said competition which was the inspiration for the title of this video. One Piece, which is always up there every year in terms of sales, sold 7.7 million copies in 2022, but it was outsold by one more series that sold 8.2 million copies that year, and that was Kingdom. So now you are aware of the series, but then comes the next big hurdle. This manga is near enough 800 chapters long, and I don't know the whole picture, but it doesn't look to me that it will be ending anytime soon. Yet I also think that this hurdle, similarly to any other long-running series, is the easiest to overcome. Just read at your own pace in your own time. If you're enjoying it, then you can keep reading and you won't face the issue of being left wanting more. And if you don't enjoy it, you can just stop. If you don't like it but want to keep reading for whatever reason, then go ahead, I guess. And I would say that Kingdom is arguably one of the best series for binge reading because, as the name Warring States period suggests, almost every arc is a war arc, just without all the earthquakes, the meteors or divine clashes. These are gritty, grounded wars where two giant armies are pitted against each other with real, genuinely intriguing tactics on trying to one-up each other, trying to gain the edge where one side has seemed to find themselves a few thousand soldiers down, or using the terrain to your advantage. Double-page spreads of different battle formations, everyone's movements and locations across the battlefield. And the battles aren't even about winning the war, it's about taking one step forward or one step back before moving on to the next one with a new goal in mind. Because, the unification of all of China, the first unification, sounds like a pipe dream. I'm not a war military tactics connoisseur, by the way, I'm just pointing out the things that stand out to me. And all of this is backed by the politics between each of those warring states, the other pillar of this manga. I mentioned how it follows the events of the unification, meaning there has to be the soon-to-be Emperor of China, currently King of Shin, apologies if I mispronounce that, one of the states. And you could argue that even though the main character isn't the king himself, the conquest of China is obviously an ever-present topic, and the king, who I know by the name of Ace, although he is probably better known by the name Huang, again sorry for the mispronunciation, he is just as much the main character as aspiring General Shin, and I would say more compelling because of everything that comes with the position that he's in. But back to the wars and battles for a second. I've talked about what makes them great, how the realism, the grounded nature works so nicely. Well, with that grounded nature comes the fact that just like in reality, these conflicts are a very slow grind, where each chapter offers a small change that shifts the balance of the battle. It takes quite a few chapters to reveal any major revelation, meaning that the week-to-week grind is especially frustrating with Kingdom, because with the slow grind and with the battles between armies not offering much when it comes to variety of appearance and setting, it's very easy to read through a chapter and forget little details amongst the masses of bodies crashing into each other on page. So binge reading or waiting for the chapters to build up once you've caught up is definitely the way to go. I say this even though I just read each new chapter as it comes out because of my own impatience. And returning to the politics, the word politics doesn't really have the best reputation in this day and age, but don't worry, because the politics in Kingdom can be some of the best bits in the whole story. Because this story takes place over 2,000 years ago, where the politics was kill or be killed, really, not hurt someone's feelings and get cancelled. That's a joke, by the way. My point is that I think because the politics is so heavily linked to the battles and conquering all of China, it doesn't feel like a story that has chosen to slow down for these moments. And most importantly of all, the situations aren't ever black or white. It's not we are the good guys and you are the bad guys. I mean, think about this, you don't have to have read the series, but you can piece together that conquering all of China demands invading other states, which you could say makes our main characters look like the bad guys. Without getting into any major spoiler territory, the phrase "keep your friends close but your enemies closer" rings so very true in this story, and it's all the better for it. And I want to get back to the fact that it's based on real historic events. I said how the author is filling things in, but also how he changes things up, with a few of those being, say, one character in the story is a weapon of mass destruction, but in real life he wrote books on pacifism, I recently learned. Our main character Shin was more likely a noble in real life if he was ever to be the king's friend rather than poor. There are some changes like that where if you are looking for a completely accurate retelling you may be disappointed, but if you just want a really good read then these changes shouldn't really be much of a problem. Of course there are liberties taken elsewhere with the character designs. I mean, I don't think the generals were so colourful and quite literally larger than life, but the drawings and portraits we do have for them don't look too flattering, so there's nothing wrong with a little artistic license. And talking about artistic license, the anime. When it comes to anime in general, I tend to hold the belief that with the right voice acting and soundtracks it can surpass the manga, but it doesn't help when the first couple seasons of this story's anime are CG animated, and even with the next few seasons being more traditionally animated, there isn't much dynamism in the movement. But I think what I said about the voice acting and soundtrack still holds some value, because man, are they both really good in the anime. Specifically, there are a lot of speeches in Kingdom, and when a good speech is done right, it can get you so pumped up. I would like to direct you to these two specifically. I think you can feel their impact regardless of whether you've read the manga or not. I have a soft spot for orchestral soundtracks, and also the end of season 4 episode 16, it's pure OST. The story has done a good job when it makes you feel like you want to join the fight yourself. The art is amazing, the amount of detail is amazing, especially for how frequently each chapter is released. I think it holds the world record for most amount of artists working on one story or something to that effect. The style could maybe be something that you will have to get used to with regard to how the characters specifically are drawn, but the art only improves. It often exaggerates different things happening on the page, and that definitely works in its favour. And the characters, I haven't really talked about the characters in this series apart from the King Ace, just because of how massive of a real historical figure he was. But I don't really want to talk about the characters here, because yes, they are well written, they are amazingly written, but specifically one thing that Kingdom has in its favour that other long series also have is the fact that because we spend so much time with them across so many chapters, you gain this sense of endearment towards them, and that's something that rather than listening to me talk about it, you should experience yourself. And I will end this video with some very high praise for the series. It is comfortably in my top 5 manga of all time, and maybe even my top 3. I think that it's fair to say that this manga is one of the best. And if you were to tell me that it's your favorite or you think it is the best, I wouldn't hold it against you. I brought up the concept of the Seinen Big 3, Berserk, Vagabond and Vinland Saga. Kingdom, in my opinion, deserves to be up there with them.